families. Thank you for joining us again today for the Jesse Tree. The title of the chapter today is The Cunning and the Wise. So yesterday, at the end of the story, the little boy said to the old man, "Make me see," because the old man said that the shepherds were witnesses. They were there to see when Jesus was just a brand new baby boy. They were the first ones to see, besides Mary and Joseph and the animals. And so the boy said, "Make me see." So at the beginning of this chapter, it says, "Look up then," said the carpenter, and they both bent their heads back to examine the roof above them. "What's beyond the roof?" "The sky." "And what's beyond the sky?" "Space, planets, the stars." "Exactly," breathed Mr. Butterfield. "It's been the same ever since people had eyes to look. Same constellations, same galaxies. But supposing one night you looked up and saw a new star." "A supernova, you mean?" "Or a comet, or an intergalactic meteorite skipping over the Earth's atmosphere? Doesn't matter. Just suppose this brand new twinkling pinpoint of light looked you in the eye and winked." Lost my place here. There we go. The two uncranked their necks from looking up at the ceiling and stared at one another. And the carpenter began a new story. "Far away in the east, 3 astronomers uncricked their necks and stared at one another. 'A new star? What does it mean?' said Caspar. 'An omen,' said Melchior, eyes full of starlight. 'Saddle the camels,' said Balthasar. 'We must go and see for ourselves. Someone's been born who's going to change the history of the world.' The 3 scholars took their bearings from the new star and traveled west. Their camels waded through rivers, struggled over sand dunes, spat at robbers lurking in the dark. During the day, the 3 sheltered from the sun and from sandstorms, biting mosquitoes, knife-edged winds. But every night they rode on, led by that star, clutching gifts for the newborn king. For surely someone whose coming warranted a new star in the sky must be an emperor or a king. Riding into Jerusalem at long last, they made for the palace, of course, and explained their mission to the king who lived there. 'Where is the new king whose birth we have seen written in the stars?' they asked. 'We've come a long way to pay our respects to him.' King Herod only ruled in Israel by permission of the Romans, but he clung on grimly to his crown and his throne and his little bit of power. Not now a pang of anger went through him like an arrow. He knew of no such birth. New king? New king? He thought to himself. I am the only king of the Jews. But to the 3 travelers he said, 'I'm afraid I know nothing of this star child. When you find him, please come back and tell me, so that I too may pay my respects.' Under the folds of his robe his fingers toyed with a dagger in its jeweled sheath. These 3 scholars might be wise in the ways of the night sky, but Herod had cunning enough to snuff out that star of theirs. Ooh. 'You'd need very long arms to snuff out a star,' said the boy. Mr. Butterfield nodded. 'And Herod might have been a big, important man, but inwardly he was small-minded, and small-minded people never reach the stars.' Much to the astonishment of Caspar, Melchior, and Balthasar, the star finally came to rest over the small town of Bethlehem. The roads were so narrow that the camels had to move in single file. Somewhere a dog barked. The 3 wondered if they hadn't made some terrible mistake along the way. What an exotic sight they must have been for anyone out late that night. The three men outlandishly dressed, gabbling in a foreign language and pointing at the stars? What strange noises the innkeeper and his customers must have heard as they turned over in their beds. Camels groaning and belching and slumping down onto their knees. What a strange night for Mary. Three dust-stained, wealthy foreigners thrusting gifts at her and the baby. What a strange discovery for the astronomers. Weary working people. A baby in a feed box. The nervy animals stepping from hoof to hoof. And yet, for this moment, fire had kindled in the distant galaxies and careered across the night sky to announce the birth of a king. Mary took the presents, a bag of foreign gold, a box of frankincense. She had smelled the scent before on the hair and clothes of cousin Zechariah after a day spent inside God's temple. Lastly, the visitors presented a jar of myrrh. The chisel slipped, sinking its blade into the carpenter's left palm. Oh no, you've hurt yourself. It's nothing, said Mr. Butterfield, but blood welled up in the cut and fell onto his work, onto the half-carved manger. They both watched it redden the wood. An odd gift for a baby, myrrh, said Mr. Butterfield, licking his cut. It's for the dead, you know, an ointment used to anoint dead people. But then that's why he came, you see. That little baby, once he was grown up, Jesus did a lot of important things, but most important of them all was dying. They both looked up at the stained glass window above them. A green hill, a brown cross, a man who was Jesus, spilling his blood to wash away all the wrongs in the world. It's like you once said, Mr. Butterfield recalled. Jesus was like the sheep who died in place of Isaac. He was like that offering on Elijah's altar. He was God's ultimate rescue plan. He was like David slaying the big bad giant. He was the way back to Paradise Garden. He was the ram God gave to Abraham. Their hands brushed as they pointed to different symbols on the Jesse tree, remembering all the stories they had shared. He's once upon a time and the end, said Mr. Butterfield. They sat down, breathless, their backs against the trunk of the Jesse tree. I'm sorry you hurt your hand. Don't worry about it, son. Tree's all but finished, isn't it? All but done. I'll mend, don't you fret. I'll mend. But speaking of blood, I haven't finished telling you about King Herod. And that is the end of that chapter. Remember, King Herod did not like the idea of having a new king born. I wonder what he's going to do. You'll have to tune in to hear what happens in the next chapter. Do you want to see the pictures in this chapter? Here's the picture of the three kings, or three astronomers, talking to King Herod. And here is a picture of them giving the gifts that they had brought to Mary and baby Jesus. And then there's one more picture. Here's the picture of the man and the boy, both of them pointing to all the different pictures on the Jesse tree and thinking about how Jesus is so many things. There were so many things in the Bible that pointed to what Jesus would be and what he would do. And they were excited about, oh, Jesus is this, Jesus is this. Yep, pretty cool. All right, see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.